Conversation with the Candidate continues right now.
Welcome back to Conversation with the Candidate and our not quite yet candidate yet, Republican Mike Rogers, the former congressman from Michigan. It's time to bring in questions from our audience here, Town Hall, New Hampshire voters, and we're going to start things off with Marie Mulroy.
Yes, hi. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for being here.
My question is, from knowing your extensive background as a former FBI agent and then as chair of the Committee on Intelligence, what I was wondering is, what do you think is the most current threat to America? What is the highest threat right now, do you think?
Well, it's, and thank you for the question. I think the biggest threat right now is China. And the second biggest threat is China. And the third biggest threat is China. And I'll tell you if I can explain that real quickly. So China is moving out. They just met with President Xi and, President Putin. They had an interesting conversation, and it should have sent a shiver down everybody's spine when he said, guess what? Americans' generation is over, and it's our turn to be the world leaders coming forward. And so China has something different that the Soviet Union didn't. They have money. They have lots of technology, most of it of which they stole from countries like the United States of America. They have the third largest nuclear arsenal. Remember, now they're talking to the second largest nuclear arsenal and talking about teaming up. We have been invaded digitally with cyber warfare, stealing intellectual property, stealing government secrets, disrupting certain operations around here in the United States and around the world. And it's all malicious. None of that has been to the benefit. And so when you look at what they're doing and what we're not doing, I think we have to look at everything through this China lens. So our economy needs a lot of work. We all know that. But we can't talk about the economy without talking about China in the same breath. One of the things they don't say it. They don't really like friends and allies. They like customers. Right? And so if you think, I'll give you a great example, we talk about having everybody drive an EV car by 2035, but they do 90% of the processing of everything that goes in electric battery cars, even the ones built here in the United States. That disadvantages us over the next generation of Americans. We can't let them do that. So I would argue if you start looking at all of these national security threats out there, and I've never seen them as bad in my entire time doing national security, China is at the top of the list.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marie. Thanks for the question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Next question coming from Donna Marzullo.
Hi,
Donna.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
If you're thinking about running for president, what makes you think you can win the nomination?
Well, here's the thing. I do think that there is a lane for an adult in the room. My wife and I started Lead America. We got very worried. We were sitting over a cup of coffee one morning and talking about how everything didn't seem right in America. Our politics didn't seem right. Certainly, I didn't agree with the current administration's policy. Those didn't seem right to me, and we're going in the wrong direction, including that spending bill that we have yet to figure out how we pay for, causing inflation, all of those things. And then we looked at what's going on in our education system in America and thought, we're in trouble. We are in real trouble. Now, we can go and talk about the same issues in the same way we do every 2 and 4 years in America, or we can try something different. We can have a candidate go out and actually talk about solutions and how we're going to have to do some of this together. We will not survive as a country, as last year, 2/3 of 8th graders were not reading proficient. 2/3 in the United States of America. Half of our high school seniors couldn't read past the 6th grade level. Right? China's teaching quantum mechanics in the 8th grade. We can't teach our 8th graders 8th grade reading. This is a serious problem. My argument is, can we come together in a way that isn't that sugar high politics where I have to grab you by the throat and you grab me by the throat, and it's great for Facebook. We get lots of followers, and we get Twitter followers and Facebook likes and all of that. Or we can stop and say, we have a huge challenge like I've never seen before. We have a nation that's big, second largest economy, wants to knock our legs out from under us. We're not doing it the way we are doing it. And if our politics remain small, I'm going to tell you, we're going to lose this fight. America has always been bigger than her problems. My argument is we're going to have to challenge each other to be bigger than our problems. That's what I think. And what's interesting is I've always said I'm not coming back to any of these places. New Hampshire, I don't know, you have to take some of your afternoon to listen to this old FBI guy until people stop asking me to come back. And what we found is people are ready to engage in solutions conversations. And that's what I hope that at least all of us Americans, if nothing else, start realizing and demanding of our candidates. Well, tell me what you're going to do about it. I get what we're angry, But angry should not be the destination. That just has to be the motivation to find a solution to get it right. Right now, our politics is about how angry can we get and how long can we stay there. That's not going to solve one problem. It's not going to help one child get a job, put more food on people's table for less price. None of that's going to happen if we keep talking the way we are.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Donna. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Donna. Next question coming from George Matthews.
Hi. Can you please tell me your position on abortion?
Yes. So I've been a pro-life candidate my entire career. The Supreme Court did something interesting. They pushed it down to the states. And so I look at this, I mean, this is the most intense personal decision anybody would make in their life. It happens to be their family and their faith. In my argument, the states are the best place to handle those conversations. I think the states are going to mediate this. I know New Hampshire has a 24-week requirement. Other states have other requirements. I think as a pro-lifer myself and in the pro-life community, we're going to have to find ways to educate. I think we lost the education debate on this about where states should be, and I think that's probably the best way to handle it. And this is an issue, again, because it's so personal, because it's such a faith-based and family-based decision, better handle it locally where you can have conversations with people who are going to make that decision.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Quick follow-up for you here, Congressman, coming from me on this. If you are in the White House and Congress does decide to pass some kind of law, if you think it's a state's issue, does that mean it's an automatic veto for you, even though you're pro-life?
I'd have to look at it. I believe that the least amount that the federal government does, the better off we're all going to be. I mean, remember when federal government got involved in education, they said they were going to cure the problem? We have the federal Department of Education, and look where our education is today. So I would be inclined to say if it's a state's issue, it needs to be a state's issue. It doesn't mean you can't advocate for your position. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be having conversations about your position. But I don't know if a federal ban superseding states, which the Supreme Court said that's where it ought to be, I'm not sure. I don't think I'd be there.
Okay. Next question coming from Chris Stawas.
Good morning.
Hey, Chris.
Welcome to New Hampshire.
Thank you.
Can you describe some of your policies that you would implement to address the opioid crisis that we're struggling with here in New Hampshire and across the country?
Yeah. So FBI guy, I chased gangsters in Chicago, and they were in the drug trade at that time. And I never, as a young 26-year-old FBI agent who was going to save the world, right, and grab every bad guy, it shocked me that we would find new heroin shipments coming into the city because you'd find more heroin junkies dead that particular weekend. That's how they test the strength this was back in the 80s. And I thought, man, we have a huge problem. It has exploded, this problem. Now, I have several ways we need to deal with it. We need to deal with it on the consumption side in America, which I think is a lot to do with the mental health issues you see across America. People are self-medicating in a way that we've never seen before. We're going to have to deal with that problem, and I have some suggestions. But one of the ways we can do this, as an old FBI guy and as an intelligence guy, a guy that served in the Army, we can dismantle distribution networks. We're going to need to be more aggressive than we are today, but we know how to do this. Remember Al-Qaeda distribution networks for guns and money and other things, and boy, did we put the hurt on them. My argument is we need to put the hurt on them and let them understand the worst place in the world to be is trying to get opioids into the United States. You're not going to last very long. There'll be no pension plan for you in that business. I think we have to be that aggressive. I've never seen anything so ravaging in a community as this. And I talked to somebody here in the building that just lost a stepdaughter not that long ago on an overdose of opioids. I know somebody personally of their family who died in an opioid epidemic. By the way, he was a police officer. There's no family that isn't touched by this. And then, if I can, on the mental health part of this, think of this. There's something going on with our children in this generation like never before, at least that I've never seen before. 1/3 of all teenage girls in 2021 thought about committing suicide. 1/3, right? We have a mental health crisis in America that we are going to have to deal with. And, I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to psychologists. I've talked to teachers. I've said, man, help me understand what can we do as a country to do this? And I get a little bit of a different answer everywhere. But what I do know is we're going to send the NIH to actually find it. One of the things that we haven't done is look at social media combined with other things. And if you look at the pressures that are on these young girls, Can you imagine? 1/3? I mean, and we don't talk about it, right? And it kind of spills over into other problems, as you can imagine. So if you think about our kids can't read in school, they're under this immense pressure, which is creating some mental health distress in this generation. And oh, by the way, we have somebody standing nearby pushing an opioid. Now you can kind of see how this is all feeding together. And so we're going to have the courage as a country to stand up and start talking about it. Candidly, all of this notion that drugs are okay and it's okay to use them, and the marijuana today is 12% to 14% THC. Back in the 60s it was 5, right? That difference of THC content makes a difference, and the pushers are using that to get at our kids. And so we just need to step back and say, okay, let's have an honest conversation in America about what's happening. And if we do that, there is no problem in the world we can't solve. But what we haven't done in the last decade or so is have this honest conversation about how we're going to have to deal with opioids. Again, tough on the distribution network, tough on the border side, and then we're going to have to start working on this notion of consumption and what's going on in the mental health with this generation of children like, again, I've never seen before. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
sir.
Chris. You touched on the border just now, and that'll bring us to a viewer question coming in from the realms of the online. So we have social media and people in the email weighing in. This is Elizabeth Mooney asking, is there a way out of this immigration mess by taking a page from Canada and Australia? As I understand it, their admittance policy prioritizes immigrants whose skill sets meet needs.
I like that, but I don't think that you can't get to that conversation if you don't secure the border first. No great country can control its country's borders and its safety of its citizens if you can't control people and goods and services coming across your border. Period. End of story. So here's the way I would handle this that's unique, I think. So we really don't need to have judges adjudicating these cases as they come across the border. Right now, I think the waiting time is months. I mean months. Sometimes I heard 3 years, one agent told me. That's ridiculous, because then they give them a credit card and something and go. There's no disincentive to come, right? I might as well take the risk. I'm going to get $100 and a trip to New Hampshire. Why not? That's better a deal than I got coming here today, I tell you. So I look at it this way. Flood the zone. We could change one piece of the law that says if you don't apply for a visa to come to the United States in your home country before you get here, there is just about no reason in the world we're going to let you in. That's number one. And then you flood the zone with both volunteers and other folks, maybe not lawyers, right? You have a framework to adjudicate. These are non-U.S. citizens. Adjudicate it within 72 hours, hold them in a camp, say, guess what? You didn't hit the right criteria. Thanks for playing. You're going home. Watch how fast these big caravans of people start dwindling down. And then, to your point, I think, what you'd like to do, once you secure the border, that's done. And you have to do both technology and people and a wall where it makes sense, technology where it makes sense, doesn't make sense all the way across, but there's places it makes sense. Then you say, listen, if you do want to come, we're going to get all your biometrics. And I would start with 2 industries, because they're woefully short of people. And if you've ever tried to get a handyman come do anything at your house, you know what I'm talking about. One is agriculture, and one is construction. Right, and allow them to come in and work with green cards. We know who they are, we know their biometrics, we know where they're supposed to be working. If they're not there, that's a problem, you go home, right? And we can really tighten this down and then give them an opportunity to send money home to their families and also fill a huge need in this country for labor that we just don't have. I was in Iowa, they were talking about last year, strawberries rotting in the field. They couldn't get people to get them. Right? We have a way around this. We have a solution for this that gives us a secure border and gives these people some opportunity. And I think you just kind of have to do it. You have to do it in cycles. Show Americans we're going to secure the border, but more importantly, show the rest of the world we're going to secure the border. And then we'll have a program that allows people to have an opportunity to come and work and send money home to their family.
All right. Next question is coming from Clara Monier.
Yes.
Claire. Nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you.
Good to meet you. New Hampshire, like much of the United States, has a relatively stable economy, even a growing economy. But we do have a problem. We have more jobs than people. One of the factors affecting this is the ability to afford affordable housing for ordinary working class people. I'd like to hear your ideas on how we solve that problem.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. So I come from a family of builders. My brother was a builder. My dad was a shop teacher. And when he retired he became a vice principal and retired and went into the housing business to build modular construction homes, which is a great way to get into a house. It's really a wonderful way to do it. So we think we know what we're doing. The problem with these local communities sometimes is the local rules and regs are the problem. It's not the federal rules and regs, it's the local rules and regs trying to get housing that fits the need. And we've tried several things. The one thing I think that we tried when George Bush was president was the American Dream Act. I don't know if you remember this, where they were giving loans to people who probably didn't qualify for them. We just have to be really careful about finding the right balance between saying we want to help you get into a house, but it has to be your house, your responsibility, not the government, not your neighbor. You have to be responsible. And I think if we find that right balance again, we can get through this. But remember, that was before the big crash, when there were lots and lots of loans out there that people couldn't pay back, created this huge problem in the economy. So that's the way I would do it. I'd try to find that right mix with the good housing policy. But again, a lot of this is local. That not in my backyard, I don't want lower income housing, but there is some wonderful housing built today that you and I wouldn't understand as low income housing. It looks beautiful, it's fantastic. There's some sample communities around the country where they've done this, including in my own county at home. It was really neat. They built this little community. It had winding streets and street lamps, and they had porches out front for people to come out and enjoy their neighbors, and it was an affordable housing complex. It was fantastic. That's, to me, is the way we do it. We have to use creativity in how we get there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Quick follow-up for you on that, Congressman. Does that model work everywhere in the United States? Obviously, some urban areas you can't build that huge, that part of affordable housing. So how does that work in a more urban area?
Urban planners are going to have to figure this out, and I think the federal government's role in this should be minimal but supportive. They're going to have to figure out which neighborhoods. When I first was an FBI agent, and I went in, and again, I'm from a kind of an area that looks a lot like here in Manchester, from Michigan, right there. Our demographics and our landscape is a little almost the same. Weather is about the same. Our Michigan accent's a little funnier. So I got to my office, and we were working an organized crime task force, and one of the police officers worked on the weekend in one of these big urban complexes that were all low-income housing. And he kept calling it, and I was shocked. I'm 26 years old. I think I'm worldly. I've been in the Army, but that doesn't make you worldly, I've understood. And he kept talking about crime motels. He goes, I got to work a shift in the crime motel. And I go, what are you talking about, the crime motel? When you center that much poverty in one place, you're going to have a problem.
All right. Congressman, we're going to continue this conversation in the online portion. We've run out of time for TV, but we're coming up next in our Conversation with the Candidate series in the next week. We're going to have Vivek Ramaswamy, a declared candidate for president, also a Republican. While we're signing off here on television, you can continue to watch Congressman Mike Rogers online and on our mobile apps for this continued conversation with the candidate. 30 more minutes of questions from our audience. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.